Hello and welcome to this Lab 9 Digital Learning Festival session on using shortcuts. My name is Martin Coutts and I am an Apple Professional Learning Specialist, Apple Distinguished Educator and former teacher of mathematics. My goal over the next 40 minutes is to give you an introduction to how shortcuts can be used to enable a combination of both productivity and creativity. Let's get started. You may have heard of shortcuts but aren't really sure what they are. Well, put simply, a shortcut is a quick way to get one or more tasks done with your apps. The Shortcuts app allows you to create your own shortcuts or download shortcuts from other people that allow you to do multiple steps in the one action. For example, you could open a Keynote file that you've been doing app prototyping on directly from your home screen. The way that we build these shortcuts is using something called an action. An action is a building block of a shortcut. It is the single step that can be combined together to complete a task. You can mix and match actions directly in the Shortcuts app and allow them to interact with apps that have the content you want to use, as well as things on the internet like a Twitter search. Actions bring it all together. The gallery features a curated list of creative and useful shortcuts. You can explore how these shortcuts are built and really get to grips with what makes a shortcut. I'll also share a document with you that is aimed at creative activities that you can do using the Shortcuts app. Knowing how to add these shortcuts, knowing how to save them and use them is just as important as being able to build them.
The first thing that we need to be able to do is to add shortcuts from external sources. So let's say you've found or been sent a link. You tap on it and the first time you do so, you'll be met with a notification that says this is from an untrusted source. Don't worry, this is just Apple's way of saying it's from someone other than the Shortcuts app. We can activate this by going into the Shortcuts portion of settings and looking at a section that says allow untrusted shortcuts. This will be greyed out the first time you look at it, but we can activate it by going into the gallery option within the Shortcuts app. This is the place where there's all of those Apple curated shortcuts. When you tap on any shortcut to select it and add it to your library, there's a blue button that says Add Shortcut. The way to remember this is it is blue for shortcuts from the gallery and red for shortcuts from external sources. This shortcut had a couple of steps that you had to go through to install it, but once it's installed and you tap it, it now activates that option that allows us to add untrusted shortcuts. This is just the language that's used. When you allow an untrusted shortcut, it just means that you are able to take third-party shortcuts from people like me or someone else who might have created, even the guys at Lab 9 Pro, who may be able to support you in creating shortcuts. Now when you tap on that link, you'll see that down the bottom it says Add Untrusted Shortcuts. Don't be worried about the wording here. Untrusted just means that it comes from someone other than Apple. If you already have a shortcut by that name, it might ask you to replace it. Other than that, it will allow you to add that shortcut to your library. So it could be ones that you found on Twitter, maybe some that the guys at Lab 9 Pro have shared, some that I have shared. You're now able to add shortcuts from any source.
You may wish to pause the video here so that you can scan this QR code. This QR code will take you to a document that has 20 creative shortcuts that you can use alongside Everyone Can Create. You can download the documents to your Files app and each of the options on the document will open a shortcut that you can save to your library. If you haven't used Everyone Can Create, ask the staff at Lab 9 Pro for more information.
When you scan the QR code, you will be taken to a web view of the document like this. These are 20 creative activities that are suitable for Everyone Can Create. When you tap on download, it will download the file to your Files app and you can locate it in the downloads folder. You can chart your progress at the top. When you tap it, it will open the document for you. You can see that we've made it easy here. All you have to do to download a shortcut is to tap the word here. And there are various activities for different aspects. If I tap on the first one, markup gift maker, it will open a web view like this, and you can see the option get shortcut. That will take you into the Shortcuts app. It will let you see all of the actions. And as we progress through the actions, down to the bottom, you can see that it says add untrusted shortcut. This one is already in my library, so I just tap replace. And it's saved to my shortcuts. Now when I open it, we can examine the actions. So you'll notice it starts by taking 3 photos. It then repeats for each of them and marks them up. Once it has saved those images, it gives me the option to select them again. So if I just tap the drop down arrow, make sure the option that says select multiple is switched on. Then you can see it makes a GIF. It's going to show me that GIF, and then it's going to save it. So let's start, and I'm going to take the same 3 images here. So 1, 2, 3. And now I'm going to mark up each of these images. Now this could be a great activity for labeling steps in a process. For this one though, I'm just going to do a simple animation, maybe something I might do with younger learners. I'm going to create a face on the globe, and I'm going to start to mark it up. Now as I'm progressing through this, just have a look at the tools that are coming up. They are the built-in markup tools. It's nothing additional. This isn't using any extra apps or features. This is just using what is there on the device. So if you mark up a photo in the Photos app or in Notes, it's the exact same here. What it comes down to is the skill. It doesn't matter what the app is or what the tool is. The skill that we are building here is creative expression through a simplified automation. So when we're working with pupils, when we're working with students, even when we're working with staff and showing them the benefit of shortcuts, something like creating a simple animated GIF has a massive impact on all aspects of learning. So all I'm doing here is creating frames. At the start of this shortcut, you notice it said take 3 photos. That could be 5, 30, 300. It really comes down to what you want the process to be. Now, as I'm progressing again, this is just frame 2. So I'm going to do a subtle change. Now, if I had a bit more time and I was doing this face to face with you, we might move the globe around as we took the next picture. Students could do this working in pairs. One of the students holding the iPad, the second one managing the object, the subject of the animation that we're going to be creating. So even though it's a single app or a single feature, the collaborative communication, all of these skills that we can build in pupils is extremely powerful, all with an app that comes out of the box. You don't need to download any additional apps. You don't need to pay for any additional bits of software. It does it all for you. And really what the limitation here, if there's any limitation, is the student's imagination. Their ability to sit there and wonder what they're going to create, how they're going to create it, and where it can be used next. This could obviously be used in a Pages lesson plan, or it could be used in a learning journal. It could be used in a keynote animation presentation. It could be used with a soundtrack that you've made in GarageBand. It really comes down to what you want your pupils, what their learning outcome is, and how you want them to progress. So I'm just going to add a bit more. Maybe as the Earth's been spinning, he's got a little bit sick. So let's put all 3 of these together. So I'm going to select 1, 2, 3, tap add. Shortcuts does it all. It makes the GIF for me. It lets me see the GIF. If I want this to go a little bit slower, I can go back and I can change the duration in between each of the frames. But that's now been saved into my Photos app, and it can be used elsewhere. Let's have a look at some other shortcuts, shall we?
Before we look at some other shortcuts that might be useful for your teaching, I'd like you to take this opportunity, maybe for the next 3 minutes, to have a bit of a hands-on go with downloading some of the shortcuts or even having a go with the markup GIF maker. You can pause the video if you need longer, but try and keep it within that 3 minutes. Obviously, we're at a time here that the Lab 9 Pro guys are working with, but if you have any questions, please reach out.
Now we're going to move into an aspect of shortcuts that has massive impact to learning in the classroom. You might have seen people sharing their iPhone home screens with custom icons. Those are all shortcuts launchers. But in the classroom, this can be used to launch files or documents that we are wanting to use to quickly showcase knowledge. Let's take an app prototype in Keynote, for example. Let's see how that can be combined with shortcuts. So I've been working on some Keynote files here that are app prototypes. You can see I've created an app icon that can be used to launch it from the home screen. I've also created my app prototype itself. This is just a simple click a link and it will play an animation. It's just a modification of a Breathe app all about mindfulness. And this is just a repeating animation that repeats for 1 minute. You can see I have the animation here, and all I've done is when I tap my 3 dots and I tap export and animated GIF, I just took all of the slides and exported it. You could export it as a movie, you can do it that way as well, and I just framed it inside the iPhone frame. So what we're going to do is pay close attention to the name of the file that we want to launch. In this case, it's called Breathe app. This is going to be important when we launch our shortcut. But what does this all look like when you're putting it together for a shortcut to launch a Keynote presentation? Let's have a look at our presentation to make sure it runs the way that we think. If we were doing this activity with pupils, we might want to make sure that it all goes the way that you would expect it to. So yes, everything runs as I would like, and I would like to save my app icon to the home screen. So again, this is where having the naming convention is important so that pupils know exactly what the name of their file is and why it's named that way. So let's just export this image as this slide, as an image. Good, that's been saved to my Photos app that I can use later. And now we're going to go into the Shortcuts app and create our launcher. So let's just tap the plus button at the top. You'll actually notice some of the recent actions or actions it thinks you want to use will be at the right-hand side. Shortcuts is quite intuitive. It knows what you're going to do. It's based on Siri. So we can narrow things down by app. You can see that we can quickly add in an action by tapping it. I can search for pages, and I can see some of the recent pages files that I've been working on can be launched from here. But let's look at Keynote, because that's the purpose of this exercise. You'll see when I look through, there are open presentation, create presentation, and there's also one that says in show mode. Show mode is the official name for when you press the play button. It's not play the presentation, it's not show the presentation, it's open it into show mode. We're noticing because Keynote is becoming more and more of a design tool that calling it present mode doesn't really do it justice. So calling it show mode really makes it that more generic for different purposes. Now, a typical shortcut name is new shortcut, but as with all things, it's important to name something the way that you want it to be. Before I tap done, if I've tapped add shortcut, you can see it doesn't update the name. So if I tap done, you can see that my shortcut name has updated, and all I've done there is pressed the blue circle with the 3 dots and then tapped add to home screen. If I tap on the icon at the bottom, I can choose my photo, find my file, pinch, zoom, do whatever I need to get this framed, then tap use. And when I tap add, I get a little tick to notify me that that has successfully added to my home screen. Click my home button, you can see there amongst all my other app icons, I have this shortcut launcher which will open me directly into my Keynote presentation, my Keynote app prototype. It is in show mode. Now I could do this a number of ways. I could launch it from the Keynote app. You can see how long that's taking. Keynote app hasn't properly opened, so even launching it just now, it's still a bit stuttery. So you'll see that it takes a little bit of getting used to, but just a single tap can open a presentation, an app prototype, into a single mode. And we can do this with any shortcut. Here's the markup gift maker shortcut that we worked on earlier. If I tap the three dots and add to home screen, tap add, all of a sudden I have shortcuts to shortcuts. They're called bookmarks. It's the same way that you would add, you can see at the top there I have Apple Teacher. It's the same way that you would add them to your home screen. It's designed to be a quick launch. Let's take the next 3 minutes for you to have a go at this yourself.
Okay, so we've had a look at a couple of ways that you can use and create a very simple shortcut. But let's go into just using some of the shortcuts from that creative activities document I shared. Simply knowing what some of these shortcuts can do and how you can use them is going to be extremely useful when it comes to being productive and creative within your own class. But knowing how these shortcuts work and where you can use them can help save you some time and allow you to be that little bit more creative, productive, and really make the most out of a little bit of automation to help your day go that bit smoother. And that's really the beauty of shortcuts, is it has that ability to save you time and allow you to be creative. Let's dive in and see what some of them look like.
So in my Files app, I have that Creative Activities with Shortcuts file. There we have it here, and you can see there's a number of shortcuts plus activities that could be recommended to go along with it. One of my favourite ones is the second in the list, called Combine Images. This ties in directly to one of the Everyone Can Create photo activities, which is to make a photo collage using of your name using various images. So I'm going to add this one. Again, I have this in my library already, so that's why I get this add untrusted shortcut. And as part of my activity, I've went and taken some pictures. Now, I found these pictures on a copyright-free website. You can see I have the 6 letters of my name. Obviously, they're a bit further up in my Photos app, but if you're doing this activity with children, they would be more recent. You can see I did this initially back in July as an example. So I just went to Pixabay and downloaded images that match the letters of my name. And now if I go into shortcuts, if this comes up again, this just seems to be a bug. Don't worry if it asks you to do it. If I go into my shortcuts and tap on the All Shortcuts tab, you can see I have all of the shortcuts in my library. You can narrow it down using the search bar at the top. I'm just going to search for combine images, and as you can see, it takes you through. It's going to ask you how many images do you want. Then it's going to go through each of them. So I have 6 letters in my name, Martin, so that's 6, and done. It's then going to, first time I'm running it, am I allowed to access the photos? Yes, you are. Again, I'm having to scroll through to find the images. When you do this activity, hopefully your images would be a bit more recent. And you pick it in the order that your name goes. So I start with the M, scroll down to the A, so on and so forth. And as I say, this shortcut ties directly into one of the activities from Everyone Can Create. If you need a bit more information about Everyone Can Create, you can check with the Lab 9 Pro guys. They will have a lot of information as well as some ways that they can support you moving forward. So as I progress through here and I find the letters of my name, once I get to the last one, it's just going to automatically stitch those together. I don't need to worry about resizing them, matching the size. So in terms of dealing with students and getting them to create right away, this shortcut is perfect because it's tap, tap, does all the work for you. It even saves it, but you can tap your share icon and you can use it elsewhere, learning journals, Keynote, wherever. Another one that is extremely useful if pupils are creating a tutorial. You might have digital leaders, digital champions. Again, talk to the Lab 9 Pro guys if this is something that you need some help with. Or if you're in school and as the teacher, it is your responsibility to create tutorials and guides for your staff, this one is going to help you. This frames a screenshot from the iPad in an appropriate frame. You, again, don't have to resize it. You don't have to do all of the work that you need to. This does it all for you. Case in point, let's go to my home screen, grab a screenshot, and this works in both landscape and portrait. So if I turn my iPad portrait, take a screenshot, you can see that works as well. Go into my shortcuts and I can now search for the device frames one that I've just downloaded, or it might appear in the list. Again, you can actually now organize your shortcuts into folders, right? Well, I'll show you that in a second, how we can organize shortcuts into folders for different activities. Let's group them. Let's find the first screenshot, tap add, choose the color. You might want space gray, gold, silver. I'm going to choose silver. As you can see, it automatically frames it. Now I can tap the share icon and I can put it to another app. I can copy it, or I can save it to my Photos app automatically. Let's do it one more time just to show you how the portrait one works. Tap the portrait icon, tap the color you want. It does all of the work that you need, and those images save automatically into your Photos app. So you can use them in tutorials. You can use them as the same way I'm doing just now, which is having my work that I'm doing with you guys framed in an iPad. It makes that connection a bit easier for some staff. And it also means that if your students are creating the tutorials, they can be quite in depth with how they're doing it. The last one that I want to show you is really a great way to create quick stop motion graphics using just your camera. So let's download this burst to video. If I tap here, this just takes you out. Again, you just do everything that you do before, where you're adding in a shortcut, add untrusted shortcut. If you've got it, tap replace. We've seen that happen already earlier in the video. And as we're progressing through, I'm now going to open my camera, and as you can see, I've got my partner in crime that I'm working with here. And right now I'm just taking a burst, holding my finger down, Communication between students, all done properly. Now if I go into shortcuts, again, this bug is coming up. This just seems to be a little bug that when you're adding, it doesn't fully add it until you go back in. You might experience it, you might not. But let's find our burst. Perfect. Tap play. Again, this is just because I've been deleting and modifying. Now what I love about this shortcut is that it doesn't want you to pick the burst. It will just take your recent burst. So this is an automatic thing. You could add this to your home screen just as a stop motion creation app. There we go. It's taken the burst, all of those frames, and it's combined them into a video. I can even choose the album that I want it to be saved into. Why don't you take the next 3 minutes to have a go at some of those. If you need the document again, just let us know. We can get you that. If not, have a chance to do some hands-on with those, have a bit of a play. Any help you need, shout out in the chat.
Okay, we're certainly getting a chance to use a lot of shortcuts throughout the course of this session. You might have a lot more shortcuts than when you first started, you might have downloaded quite a few from that document, and your shortcuts app is getting a bit cluttered. In the latest version of iPadOS, which is version 14, we finally gained the ability to organise our shortcuts into folders. Let's see how we can group them, organise them, and make them a bit easier to find.
Shortcuts can quickly become disorganized, especially when you add more and more quick launch ones. As you can see, I have a number of shortcuts here that would be better grouped together. So you'll notice down the bottom we have an add folder icon. So if I tap that and type in the word accessibility and then reduce down the size of my keyboard, you can see I can add in a glyph, I can add in objects, people or symbols. There are a number that you can use. So for accessibility, we actually have the accessibility icon. So if I tap add, you can now see I have a folder. And shortcuts works like any other iPadOS feature. including drag and drop. So if I just lift up magnifier, hold it with one finger, and then tap the other shortcuts I wish to add with my second finger, I can combine them all. You can see I have 10, 11. Now if I drag them to that folder and let go, they have moved from the all shortcuts folder to the accessibility folder. Let's add in a second one. I have quite a few apps that do some device frames. So I'm going to tap maybe a photo for this one because it deals with images. So let's just tap the photo icon there and tap add. Perfect. So you can see it adds into the bottom. If I tap all shortcuts again, I can now even scroll through my list. So let's pick up the one that says device frames. Let's tap on Apple frames, and let's also tap on iOS product frames. You can see I hold this with one finger, scroll with another, tap any shortcut I wish to include in that group, drag it over and drop it down. Now that's not the only way you can do it. As you can see, I have a number of shortcuts that are creative. Let's maybe add them in together. So let's add a new folder, call it creativity. Might be quite nice if there was a pencil object here. Oh, look at that. It's almost as if they thought about it ahead of time. Let's tap add. And now this time I'm going to tap select, and I'm going to go through and tap on the shortcuts I wish to put in this folder. So let's tap ones that are maybe markup or whiteboard, some that we've maybe already used throughout this session. Combine images, we could add that one in, perfect. Burst the video, there's another one we've used, and also markup GIF maker. Now I'm going to tap move at the bottom. You can see I have a number of folder options, including creativity, and I can even drag an individual one just by pressing and holding and dragging it down to the folder without lifting my finger. Now, if you're like me, you might like to organize things by color. As you can see, accessibility was all the same color. Creativity is a mishmash, as is device frames. So I'm going to change the color by tapping the three dots, tapping the three dots again, tapping the small icon, choosing the orange. Let's see that one more time. Tap the three dots. Whoops, I tapped that one to run, sorry. Let's just tap away to cancel. Tap the three dots again, tap the preview, change the color, tap done. Back to my shortcuts. Let's finish with device frames. Tap the three dots, tap the three dots, tap the preview, tap the color, tap done. Now you can see all of my colors match. They're grouped into a folder. It's almost as if I'm doing a bit of color coordination here. So with that color coordination, I have a way to organize my shortcuts. The ability to organize your shortcuts by category makes it easier for you to find ones for a specific purpose. You may have shortcuts that are just for organizing images, or you might have shortcuts that are specific to accessibility features. You can toggle on magnifier. You can do all of these accessibility features. It really is down to you how you organize your shortcuts. So now that we've seen how to download, how to use, how to organize, and really how to get the most out of shortcuts, it's really the next step for you guys is to either speak to the guys at Lab 9 Pro or reach out to me for some additional help. If you're wanting to learn some more about shortcuts, I have a YouTube channel that has 30 days of shortcuts activities for you to watch and download. Over the past several months, I produced 30 videos that are designed to really give you an idea of how to take shortcuts further. On YouTube, if you do a search for 30 days of shortcuts, you will see these videos along with some of the resources that I shared. They're all there. So there's a playlist that you can subscribe to and watch. And all I've done in each of the videos is I've kind of broken down the different ways that you can use shortcuts, some expanding upon what we've spoken about here and some ways that you can take it further. You have You can see that my moustache has changed. It's not as thick as it used to be. But if you scroll through, you can see that there's different ways that we can use shortcuts. I tried to give you a very, very similar format to what we've just done today. There's day 3, 4, 5, so on and so forth. And in the comments of those videos are also some resources and links to the shortcuts that you can download. So I'd really love to see what you think of these videos if you are interested in doing a bit more with shortcuts. I'm not the only one to produce them as much as I would like to. There is a great archive of shortcuts on the Mac Stories website. So if you go to macstories.net/shortcuts, the master of shortcuts, Federico Vitici, has created multiple shortcuts for all facets of life. Obviously not directed at education like the ones I've shown you, but ones that can be adapted. The notes options has some great ones, and even in photos you can see that there's some that I've pulled my inspiration from. And that's really what's great about the shortcuts community, is it's all people who are interested in doing more and sharing, including some developers. You'll notice a few apps on here: Launchcuts, Charty and Toolbox Pro. Those 3 apps are all designed to create actions for shortcuts. Scriptable does the same, so if you're into JavaScript and things of that nature, Scriptable also has it. But I love Charty because as a maths teacher, it allows me to quickly create bar charts and pie charts and things of that nature.
All that remains is for me to say thank you for taking the time to join me on this journey of using shortcuts. My thanks to the guys at Lab 9 Pro, who will be able to help you with any further inquiries you might have when it comes to everyone can create and how you get started. Use the hashtags and reach out on Twitter to share some of the things that you're doing with shortcuts, and I look forward to seeing what you produce. Thank you so much for your time.